Check. Check 1, 2, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, request everyone to kindly settle down as we are set to start in the next couple of minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, request you all to kindly settle down as we're all set to start. Now the wait is only for the people to settle down so that we can take this second day of TiECON Hubli 2018 ahead. Wonderful, ladies and gentlemen. Music is basically food for the soul, and when played live by the best of the artists, it's just a different feeling altogether. May I request you to put your hands together for Mr. Aranya Kumar on sitar and Gopi Krishna on tabla, who gave us a wonderful start for this beautiful morning. Well, ladies and gentlemen, happy morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us right here. Well, just to make sure we all are present here, let me hear it back from you. I wish you happy morning, and you wish me back again. Ladies and gentlemen, happy morning, everyone. Thank you so much. Well, I'm the host, MC Asif, and I'm here to make sure I host and introduce to the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, TiECON Hubli happens to be happening for the 9th time, and it is in the world. This is the most fastest upcoming chapter, and it is very well recognized around the world, for which the team who's been working behind this deserve a huge round of applause. Let's give a big round of applause for the entire TiE members who's actively participating. And yeah, the recognition what TiE has got is, this is a place which has got the most active members. The kind of participation what we see here doesn't happen even in the biggest of the cities. And also 3 years ago we had Women Conclave, which was started right here in Hubli, and we've successfully completed 3 years of Women Conclave. And yesterday we had exclusive Women Conclave. We had different set of speakers, and there was a great knowledge which was gained. Ladies and gentlemen, the best way towards success is to start. And I think with the wonderful people present out here, it's time we begin with TiECON Hubli 2018, the second day. Well, as we move ahead, it's important for me to acknowledge the sponsors who play a very big role in the events like this. As I call upon the names of the sponsors, request you to put your hands together. Ladies and gentlemen, the presenting sponsor for TiECON Hubli is Astark. Let's give a big round of applause to Astark. Thank you so much, Astark. And it is powered by Digvijay. Let's give a big round of applause to Digvijay as well. And would also like to thank the sponsors Servo, SBI, VRL, Michelin, Avian Segal Enterprises, Big Mishra, Bank of Baroda, LG Brand Shop, Avian Segal Enterprises, Avian Segal Group of Companies, Swarna Group of Companies, Sankalp, Avium Granites, Migmac, Canara Bank, Orb Energy, and Swastik Plywood. Let's give a big round of applause to all the sponsors. And now, ladies and gentlemen, to begin with this wonderful morning, the second day of TiECON 2018, request our convener, Vivek Nayak, to kindly join us on stage and address the gathering. Let's give a big round of applause to Mr. Vivek Nayak.
Good morning and warm welcome to all of you for the second day of TiECON. And we have had a wonderful day yesterday. Dear friends, this is the 7th edition of TiECON 2018. And I was the convener in 2014. Nobody remembers I was the convener. So that was the scale of TiECON those days. And today, you witness much more bigger scale, this TiECON. And our theme this year is Business Redefined. You all know, in today's scenario of demonetization and GST, the way we approach business has changed a lot. And we don't, at a macro level, we have no real control, and what is more in the card at the center. And things have changed a lot, and Hubli team has put together a lot of effort to bring you great content for 2 days. And I wish to thank all the TiE members, governing body, everybody for their support they have extended to put up this 2-day session. I would like to see in this small city, the most difficult part is organizing funding. Sponsorship is the most difficult thing. And I would say that our sponsorship committee has made a lot of effort. We have approached many sponsors here, and we have managed to collect almost 50 lakhs rupees to put up this TiECON. I congratulate our sponsorship committee for this great effort. this is going to be a very packed session for the whole day. And we have Mr. Mohandas Pai. He is going to do the keynote in the morning. And I'm happy Mr. Gurraj Deshpande is also here. Actually, when in the beginning, our basic program was, he was supposed to come only in the evening, but yesterday we made a request for him to be present for the morning session. I thank you, sir, for your presence. Thank you, sir. So, we have morning keynote from Mohandas Pai. Then we have series of sessions. We have Mr. Kailas Katkar, CEO of Quick Hills Technologies, who is going to address us. We have Mr. Anil Menon. We have a parallel session this time around 3 o'clock on artificial intelligence. And Mr. Rajiv Chandrasekhar, he is going to give a grand keynote in the evening at 6:30. And we have, this time, we have a session in the evening we call Icons in TiECON, where Mr. Gurraj Deshpande is going to moderate the session. We are going to have Mr. Ramesh Arvind. He is an actor, filmmaker, and we are going to have Mr. Rajiv Chandrasekhar in the evening. We are also going to have Mr. Sanjeev Kapoor, the chef, the celebrity chef. He is going to join us in the evening. I am sure this is going to be a very learning session, and I'm sure it's going to be a very good learning session. I hope you all enjoy TiECON second day. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we just heard the convener, Mr. Vivek Nayak. I request you all to keep your eyesight towards the screen as we have a small video which will be played of TiECON Hubli. India, redefined, business redefined. TiECON Hubli 2018 Business Redefined. Let's give a big round of applause and congratulate to the entire team who's been reaching towards the best of the success possible with TiECON Hubli. Ladies and gentlemen, as our convener said, it's very important, and it was really hard to generate the sponsors here in this small city. And acknowledgement to all the sponsors. Now, one such sponsor I'd like to call on stage to address the gathering from ASTARC is Mr. Santosh Hurlikopi. Let's give a big round of applause to Mr. Santosh Hurlikopi.
Ellargu namaskara, good morning. It's a very proud moment for me personally to say, because before I represent ASTARC, who's been the main sponsor for this event, I would like to take a few years back when we first met Desh, maybe about 11 years back probably, and Desh put a challenge that we want to form TiE, then at least get 10 to 15 people who can think about entrepreneurship, who can think about ecosystem, and who wants to contribute and also grow themselves. And it was a difficult time, and of course, when Desh puts a challenge, you can't say no. We said, Desh, yes, we'll try our best. And it took 4 months to gather 15 people. And I'm proud to say that of all the founding team, Naveen Jha, myself, Gautam, Sandeep, Arvind Bellad, all have been so intact, and all have been probably the presidents of TiE in the years which came along. We've been a fantastic journey, sir. I think today we are witnessing this gathering. It's not about just an event, it's about people coming together and showing that Hubli is on the path of what probably you advised us and you want us to grow. And thanks to Mohandas Pai, he came from Jaipur to Mumbai to Hubli. Give him a round of applause, please, from my side. He just told me one statement. 4 years back, I came to TiE, and I had promised that I will come to Hubli, and I'm coming today. So thank you so much, sir. And about ASTARC, which I'm representing today, ASTARC is a company based in Bombay, but have a global presence. Next slide, please. They have a group of companies. Classic Stripes is their flagship company, which makes one of the world's largest decal manufacturing. For people who don't know, decal is the sticker which goes on the automobile. Hero, Bajaj, all their large customers, and have plants across India wherever manufacturing plants are around. And of course, they have infrastructure project, which in the Dharwad we are trying to come up with. I'll just explain it later. Ventures is a fund, seed fund. I've been part of the seed fund as well, and we have 12 companies in our portfolio now investing. Agro is again a division based in Africa, and foundation works a lot in the social sector. Next slide. So these are some of our portfolio companies, part of ASTARC Ventures. I'm happy to say that in Nora AI, one of the funds of Mohandas Pai also has just invested, Xfinity has invested Mr. Pai in this. So next slide. So this is a project which we are envisaging near Dharwad, very close to IIT, about 200 acres of land, and we are just working on a project, probably we'll announce soon. I don't want to say anything because it's still in planning stage. Next slide. And thanks to Arvind Bellad, who actually brought, when I got this group to Hubli, he was very much instrumental in convincing why we should come to Hubli, Dharwad. And they came, and our chairman, Kishore Musle, and his sons were there. And they invested now, and now we are working on a project. And also, I'm happy to say that they have a huge expansion in East Africa. I am also part of that. It's with the First Lady of Uganda, where we are doing some work in East Africa. Thank you so much, and wishing all the best for today's session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Well, ladies and gentlemen, coming together is the beginning. Working together is the progress. And yes, being together right here at TiECON Hubli is going to be very, very successful. It's very important for us to be alert, ladies and gentlemen, because the next speaker, the keynote speaker who's going to join us on stage, has been serving in the country in different areas of finance, accounting, information technology, human resources, education, social impact, innovation, policy formulation, heritage preservation, philanthropy, and venture startup ecosystem. Ladies and gentlemen, he is consistently named as one of the India's top angel investors. And what he co-founded, Akshaya Patra, is feeding 1.6 million children each day in 13,500 plus government schools across 12 Indian states. Let's give a big round of applause for this achievement. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about the Padma Shri awardee, Karnataka Rajyotsava awardee, Chairman, Manipal University. Please put your hands together for Mr. Mohandas Pai. Let's give a big round of applause to Mohandas Pai, ladies and gentlemen. Do not dwell into the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment, because the present moment we have a topic, leadership in the age of disruptions, covered. So thank you so much for joining us.
Folks, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me. It's good to be back after so many years. I think Desh has been a catalyst and a person who transformed what people think of Hubli. And I want to, first of all, thank Desh for everything he's done for all of us, Kannadigas. Because most things in life starts with one individual, one dream, and a person of great energy, and a person who can transform everybody else, including society. And Desh, to me, is an outstanding example of a great Indian whose heart is in his hometown and who comes back and does things to change. And I've suddenly seen the change the last 6-7 years that we've been coming to this place. So thank you, Desh, for everything. I want to talk about something big that's happening on the world, and that is the disruption in society due to technology and due to advances in science. We are now living in the age of disruption. And what does it mean? And how is it going to impact us? To understand disruption, let's go back a little bit in history. Throughout history, the largest quantum of time, countries which had large number of people were the richest countries in the world. India, China were the largest economies in the world, the richest countries in the world, till about 1850. Right from the dawn of history to 1850, India, China made up a large part of the world. And why was that? They had large number of people. They didn't have so many wars which killed people, warm climate, access to water, and because they had people for a longer period of time, they developed skills, artisans, they built civilizations, and they had commerce in a way it was very good for the whole world. Because civilizations are built on human muscle and animal power. The motive power is human muscle and animal power. You see the great pyramids in Egypt, you see the great temples in South India, you see the Great Wall of China, they're all built by human beings, basically human labor. Then in 1850, around 1850, something happened which changed the world, and that was the invention of steam engine. For the first time, latent energy could become kinetic energy. So people invented the steam engine, and the steam engine went off patent, and that means it could proliferate, and that started the age of machines. And the age of machines changed the whole course of human history. Changed the whole course of human history in a short period of 50 years. What did it do? Because you had machines and motive power, you could set up factories, you could standardize production, you could lower the cost, you could distribute and accumulate wealth. Because the productivity of a machine was many times the productivity of a human being. In around 1500, Vasco da Gama came east to India to find out spices and to trade with Europe, because till then spices came to Europe through the Silk route and through the sea route with the Arabs. And spices is something the Europeans wanted, and they were not a very advanced civilization at that point of time, coming of the Dark Ages. Of course, Rome was a great civilization, but the Romans had spent themselves, and the world after the end of Rome was in what we call the Dark Ages. So after Vasco da Gama came to, trading started on the ship route, because shipping meant that you could go faster and you could carry many goods and you could trade, and that led to the rise of the merchant class too. Till then, society globally was very feudal. What does it mean? It meant that people who owned the land People who owned the land owned the people. And those people tilled, created agricultural produce, and the surplus went to a small set of people who were the lords, who were the kings, and they ruled. So the whole social architecture was based upon feudal rule, where there were a few number of lords, a large number of people who worked for them, and it was based on an agricultural pastoral society. But the traders came and started doing trade and accumulate capital that led rise to the city-states of Italy like Venice and Milan and all that, and capital got accumulated. So when the machine came, the money for that machines was given by the merchants of Europe. So there was capital, surplus capital, there were machines, and that set off the industrial revolution in Europe. And in a matter of 50 years, from 1850 to 1900, Europe became the greatest civilization, the greatest country anywhere in the world, and Asia, India declined. Of course, India was colonized by that point of time, and being colonized meant that we were a source of raw material, and we became a market for the finished goods, because those finished goods were cheaper, more standardized than anything we had. And being colonized meant that your colonial masters could destroy the artisans, destroy the trade, put tariffs. So they had very high tariffs for export, very low tariff for import, and that meant that trade was one-sided, and India's wealth got drained to England. And there's a great American writer called Will Durant who wrote a book, The Case for India, and he says, between 1850 and 1930, the British took away $400 billion of money in 1930 money, $400 billion, and that led to the rise of the Industrial Revolution. So we saw an industrial economy come up. We saw Asia, that China and India come down, and they became the largest countries in the world, the richest countries in the world, and it had an effect in America. So just imagine, in 50 years, 3,000 years of a social structure was changed, and that is the first big disruption that happened in a short period of time, and a very, very short period of time. Then another event happened around 1914 which changed the course of history, and that was in a place called Sarajevo in Serbia, in the Balkans. Archduke Ferdinand, the heir apparent to the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, was shot by an anarchist. He was killed by an anarchist, and thus set off the First World War. So what is the political structure of the world at that point of time? In Russia, you had the Tsars, who have been around for 600 years. In Hungary, you had the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, which was there for another 700 years. You had the Germans who had unified under Bismarck, and you had Kaiser Wilhelm as Emperor of Germany. The French had become a republic. England had a colony around the world, the greatest empire ever built. America was coming up with capital from Europe. In the Middle East, there was the Ottoman Empire. The Ottomans had destroyed the Eastern Roman Empire in the 13th century, taking over Constantinople, and they were the caliphs. Caliphs for the Muslim world. If you go to Topkapi in Istanbul, you must go to a museum. There's a letter written by Prophet Muhammad to the emperors of Europe, asking them to embrace Islam, lest he go and invade them. And the saddle that he rode on his horse is there. The rich cloth to cover the Kaaba in Mecca, Medina is there. They sent a caravan all the way to Mecca, Medina from Istanbul for the Hajj. So the fascinating structure that existed, they've been around for 600 years, having destroyed the Eastern Roman Empire and leading Europe into the Dark Ages. And you come east to India. India, the Mughals were gone, the British were there, small kingdoms were there. And you come to China. China was going through turmoil at that point of time. China was going through civil war. China had an unbroken empire for 2,500 years, and they were very, very rich, but they had an interaction with the West. They lost out. The Summer Palace in Beijing was looted in 1864. In Shanghai, you had the Western powers on the run, setting up the trading post, and they pushed opium into China and became rich. Some of the passing merchants in Bombay were in the opium trade, and that's the first great source of wealth that came into India. We know some of them still exist around today. So, and the Japan was coming up. Japan was industrializing after the Meiji Restoration. That was the social structure of the world. All right? And suddenly, one single bullet set off the First World War. Austria-Hungary declared war against Serbia. Serbia had a treaty with France. France came into the war. France had a treaty with England. England came into the war. And the Germans came on the side of Austria-Hungary, and suddenly there's a war. In 1919, when the war ended, 16 million people were dead. The war started with cavalry and infantry. Then you had the tanks. Then you had the planes come in the air. Then you had chemical warfare in the trenches of Flanders, where thousands of young people, the flower of Western civilization, were killed. And Germany also made the mistake of going against Russia. And when the war ended, the political construct of the entire world too changed. 1917, there was the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. The communists came to power, and the Tsar was gone. 1919, the Emperor of Austria-Hungary abdicated. Kaiser Wilhelm abdicated. Germany was in ruins. France was going nowhere. And England was enfeebled. America entered the war in 1917 and suddenly saw a burst of economic activity. And it grew because capital came there and they could fund the war. And the Ottoman Empire was gone. The Ottoman Empire was gone, and Sykes and Picot, two diplomats, in 1919 sat down on a warm day over tea and drew up the map of the Middle East. They created the countries of Iraq, they created Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, they created Lebanon, they created Syria, they created Jordan, and they created Palestine. And 1917, Lord Balfour declared in the UK Parliament that the Israelis, the Jews, are going to have a homeland and start the immigration. That problem still exists today. It goes back to World War I. That problem still exists today. Most of the problems of the world today goes back to the end of the First World War, which changed society. And the Ottoman Empire was gone. Kemal Atatürk came and made Turkey into a secular republic and abolished the fairs. And India had this Khilafat movement with Gandhi because the Caliph was gone. The Caliphate has been around for 600 years. And the Caliph was the head of the Muslim community globally. And Kemal Atatürk got a very restricted Turkey because the old Turkish empire was gone. China went through a revolution where the emperor was deposed by Sun Yat-sen, a republic was declared, and Japan was growing well, and 1 million Indian troops fought on the side of the Allies. And when these Indian troops went to Europe, they found out the white man is not so powerful. The white man is scared of war. The white man gets killed. And these were valorous people. And suddenly they said, we're equal to the white man in war. The psyche of the Indian Jew changed. And 1919, the world was a different place. Now, track it back, why all this happened, how 16 million people were killed. It was the age of the machine. The start of the machine era led to all these kind of things because it had a multiplication impact, it had leverage impact, and you could do it on grand scale. At the same time, around 1850, 1860, you had the IC engine coming up, the internal combustion engine. The internal combustion engine led to the growth of the transport industry, the steamboats coming, and mechanized transportation. The world shrunk. It became a smaller place. There were aeroplanes in the air, thousands of aeroplanes in the air, and things were all right. And then in 1921, the Treaty of Versailles was signed. In the Treaty of Versailles, Germany was supposed to pay reparations to the Allies in Europe. And because the reparations, Germany faced high inflation, where you needed a wheelbarrow of currency to pay a loaf of bread. And that led to the rise of Hitler in 1932. Hitler came, industrialized Europe, and the industrialization led to the Autobahn, what we know it. The Autobahn started there. It led to mechanized infantry. It led to the development of tanks and a new kind of war called the Blitz. So when Hitler conquered Czechoslovakia in 1939 and then moved against Poland, the Second World War started. And when the Second World War started again, just imagine, Hitler had tanks, he had mechanized infantry, and they were all going on vehicles, and he could move the army 50 kilometers a day. 50 kilometers unheard of any time. And he could conquer the whole of Europe in just about 6 months' time. After the war, the French had built a line in the border with Germany called the Maginot Line. And the Maginot Line was impregnable. They could not pass it. So Hitler just sidestepped and came from Belgium and conquered France, and Paris was gone. Why is it important? It's important because the impact of change, the suddenness of change will hit you before you know what happens. So the war was fought, and when the war started, from Poland, they came on horses against the tanks. They came on horses, cavalry against the tanks. They were all butchered. It's gone. And when the war ended, Hitler had rockets flying. 2,500 rockets went and hit London. The Americans had developed the atom bomb. They put it in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Japan went and fought against Americans in Pearl Harbor, destroyed the fleet going 2,000 miles. And Japan had conquered parts of China, Nanjing and Shanghai and everything else, and set up a Manchurian empire in 1935. And Japan had become a great power led by population growth because they wanted the raw materials. And Japan was destroyed. Germany was destroyed. Russia had become a great power. 60 million people were killed. 6 million Jews were killed by Hitler. 60 million. 6 crore were killed. Europe was devastated. France was devastated. Germany was gone. All those countries were gone. In Turkey was still around. America had become a great power because Americans started producing for the war in 1942 and being isolated by 2 ponds, the Atlantic and the Pacific. Nobody came and damaged them, and America had become a great power. America fought against the war. The Russians then had the Cold War, set up the Warsaw Pact, and the world changed again, and the United Nations was around. And in India, the freedom movement had taken on, and England was enfeebled. England no longer could afford the empire. So India became free in 1947. The Marshall Plan came to Japan. Japan grew, became an industrial power. Germany became industrial power. Southeast Asia became industrial power simultaneously. India followed Nehru. And from 1950 to 1970, we grew at 1980, we grew at 3.5% a year because we followed socialism. For 2,000 years, India was an open market economy. Pliny the Elder wrote 2,000 years ago that Rome will be impoverished by trade with India because Rome had to give gold and silver to buy textiles and spices from India. And the cotton cloth that went from India, because India was a great textile nation for thousands of years. We had great artisans. The muslin that was woven in Dhaka, which is a part of India, was so fine that you could take an entire cloth to a ring. It was so fine. It's still there in West Bengal, if you go and see that. And India was a great trading power. And India used to take gold and silver, and he said Rome will be impoverished because Rome had to destroy empires to get gold and silver. And all the Roman toga was all Indian cloth that was exported to Rome. So the world changed by 1945. And today, when you see all this impact, you see China as the dominant power, $12.2 trillion, $22 trillion in GDP, PPP. America is the declining power, $18-19 trillion, and China will dominate. Europe is going nowhere. Soviet Russia has been broken up into many kingdoms. Putin is a bit weak. Africa is coming up. India is coming up. And you see Southeast Asia between India and China. It was once called Indo-China. Another 20 years will still be Indo-China. The confluence of the Indian and Chinese civilizations and South America coming up. So we are a very different world from there. But what we are today, you trace it back. But 15 years ago, a phenomena happened which is the next stage of disruption. And that is the rise of the internet. Why internet? Because we are living in the post-industrial revolution era. The post-industrial revolution era created a supply chain between producers and consumers. In the supply chain, there were producers who produced goods, and then they were distributed through different modes of transportation, oil through pipelines, through shipping, and they went to retail, warehouses, etc., bankers, etc. And the greater part of the value added was captured by the intermediaries between the consumers and the producers, right? Because the supply chain was built like that, finance was built like that, the post-industrial revolution architecture was very different. Suddenly we had this internet, and internet grew, and today we have one single technological platform where 7.6 billion people can interact. They can get government services, they can do financial transactions, they can do e-commerce, they can get entertainment, they can get education, they can create networks, they can do everything else. And everybody's in the same plane, asynchronously, depending upon what you want. And the fantastic development because you've created one single global market of people linked together. And it's an enormous development. It happened because of the internet. And the internet was driven by IT, which is the horizontal. And this had an impact in many other industries, along with science and technology. But I would rate the internet as a common platform which truly disrupted society. And the impact of all that is going to be felt in the next 12, 13 years. Now, how is this growth in science, technology, and the internet impacting industry? Let's take industries one by one to understand the impact. Because we need to know how is it going to impact us. Take oil. The world consumes 97 million barrels of oil. 5 years ago, oil was $145 a barrel. Then something happened in the United States. Fracking. What is fracking? You drill for oil horizontally. The Americans discovered that there are small pools of rock and oil trapped in rock, oil and gas trapped in rock, and they started a technique by which they drill horizontally down and they drill vertically down and go horizontally after that to tap into small pools. In 1971, after the first oil shock, when the OPEC became a cartel, America banned the export of oil. And America said, we want to keep the oil in the ground. Now, because of fracking and because of lowering of cost, America's production has gone to 9.75 million barrels a day. And now people say in the next 3-4 months, they will overtake Russia and OPEC to be the largest producer of oil. For much of the 20th century, America was the largest producer of oil, the largest exporter of oil. America made its wealth on oil. And suddenly fracking technology has reduced costs. Fracking technology has meant, because the price is coming down, that oil becomes viable at $45 a barrel. The tar sands of Canada, which supplies 40% of oil to America, is also viable at $45 a barrel. And that's why you're seeing oil come down from $145 a barrel to about 38, now gone to 65, 70. And it meant that the Middle East politics is gone. Saudi Arabia had $750 billion of reserves. In the last 4 years, it has come down to about $500 billion because oil prices are down. 85% of revenues come from oil. And then, because of that, Prince Salman has come to power. He's changing the Saudi society, removing Wahhabism, and making sure the society comes up. And the whole of the Middle East, all the countries dependent on oil in the Middle East, are seeing economic activity come down. And the source of terrorism from Saudi Arabia, because of Wahhabism, hopefully will subside now because money will no longer be available. Venezuela, which depend upon oil, is coming down. It all happened because of fracking. But is it a true disruption? It is a disruption. But the bigger disruption is coming in when other parts of the economy use oil. 60% of oil is used by the automotive sector. The world makes 90 million four-wheelers plus. 90 million. It's a $2 trillion industry. And suddenly we have the rise of the electric vehicle. A electric vehicle has 20 moving parts. An IC engine has 2,000 moving parts. An electric vehicle costs $1,500 in the US to maintain for a year, including energy. And an IC engine costs $10,500 a year. Now if you get an electric car for $35,000 coming down to $20,000, and suddenly the economics of the electric vehicle has changed, and the IC engine has changed for very many reasons. Imagine you put up a solar panel on top of your house, you get the sun's energy, convert it into electricity at 18%, can go to 24% in the lab, hopefully it'll be 24%, put into storage, plug your car, and you can go for 300 miles or 300 kilometers. And then the night you get the car back, plug it in, it becomes a source of power, your whole house is lit. So what happens to energy consumption for the electric vehicle? This year the world will make 1.5 million electric vehicles, and by 2025 China will make 7 million electric vehicles. By 2030 there will be 60 to 70% of all cars will be electric vehicles. And that's going to disrupt the auto industry. That's going to disrupt the model of the auto industry. And we went to Tesla to see the manufacturing in the US, and we found in Tesla they shrunk the electric motor by 40% in 3 years. 40%. And now the electric car is supposed to be the fastest car, going to 100 kilometers, I think, in 4 seconds or something like that. And the cost of electric car is coming down. And when China starts producing electric car, things change dramatically. India has an electric vehicle policy. And what is another thing of the electric car? The electric car doesn't wear out. Tesla has got taxis which go for 500,000 kilometers. 500,000 kilometers. A car will die in 1,500 kilometers. It wears out. But this car goes for 500,000 kilometers. That means the cars live long. And cars, along with autonomous driving, where you don't have anybody driving, but you use sensors, you use IoT, and you use radar to find out how to make the cars drive, is a deadly combination, because tomorrow you can order your car to come and pick you up. You order your car to come and pick you up on your mobile, the car comes and picks you up, and you speak to the car and say, I want to go somewhere, and the car drops you and goes away. This, along with the sharing economy, set up by platforms like Uber and Ola in India, meant that people don't have to own a car. Because data says that 90% of the time a car is not used. 90% of the time it is just stays stationary. Why buy a car and spend so much of money when you use it only 10%? You can do sharing, you can get people to come and drive you around, and you can have an electric vehicle which does not require parking, it will be cruising, and you need suddenly lesser number of vehicles. So in American cities, 15% of the entire real estate is for parking. And what happens to the insurance industry when accidents will come down? What happens to the motor vehicle repair industry? What happens to all those auto manufacturers? Because the number of components is just 20. The engine has just got 20 instead of 2,000. What happens to all the ecosystem? That is a true disruption that's happening in the massive way. Number of cars are going to come down, the costs are going to come down, people are going to share, and oil is going to get hit. If oil consumption comes down from say 100% to 70% because 30% goes because of electric vehicles, what happens to oil? The oil industry gets disrupted. What happens to the Middle East? Now these are happening in a very, very big way. And the next industry that's getting disrupted is the utility industry. Now, the majority of the world's power, electricity, is generated by coal. But for the first time in 200 years, in the month of June, in the UK, 100% of power was alternate energy. Alternate energy to gas, to solar, to wind, and 100%. Coal was not burned. Coal was not burned. For the first time in 200 years. In the whole of Europe, 19% of energy is alternate energy. The largest utility in Germany, called E.ON, has been broken up into an alternate energy transmission distribution company, and the generating plant, which contains coal plants, have been taken away, and the value has come down. In the whole of the US, the $500 billion utility industry is a sell for analysts. So the energy markets are getting disrupted. And in India, people are able to sell power, wind power at 2 rupees 70 paisa. Coal is 4 rupees 50 paisa. And then you have solar, which is again selling at about 2 rupees 80 paisa, 2 rupees 90 paisa. The cost of solar has come down. In China, 10% of energy is alternate energy. That means you may get clean energy for a period of time. Storage will improve, and as far as base load is concerned, maybe nuclear will take over, or maybe there'll be a little bit of coal. But if 30-40% of energy goes to alternate energy, which is supposed to happen globally by 2030 or even earlier, it means that the impact of that alternate energy will be felt on the auto industry. Auto industry, fuel costs are going to come down, electric cars are going to reduce the number, and that's going to be felt in the oil industry. Oil is a $6 trillion industry. The auto industry is $2 trillion, provides 1 in 6 jobs. And then next industry get disrupted is manufacturing. How do you do manufacturing? We mine an ore, make it into metal, create a metal piece, and then we do reductive manufacturing. We cut the parts, cut the metal to make parts. Now we go into 3D printing. In 3D printing, we design a component, put in the PC, then a machine, a 3D printing machine, makes the component 30 microns or 20 microns, micron by micron, using metal powder or plastic. It recreates. So very complex engineering components in 3D imaging can be designed on a PC, and the machine can print it by itself. 3D printing has printed houses, 3D printing has printed rocket engines, 3D printing has printed racing engines, 3D printing has printed chocolates, 3D printing has printed blood vessels, and in Bangalore, in a Petra dish with 3D printing, they're trying to grow liver parts. Because if the liver is damaged, they can also grow the liver part. 3D printing has created parts of the skull for a transplant, part of the hip bone, and everything else. So 3D printing can replace manufacturing the way it is done. Up to 30% of global manufacturing will be 3D printed. And when 3D printing happens, another interesting happens. Now, if you want a car, how is a car manufactured? A car is assembled in a factory. Components come in there that may change the electric engine, and then it is distributed to everything else. With 3D printing, you can sit down and tell somebody in Bangalore, I want this car, and you get a bespoke car. Then you press a button in the neighboring shop, there's a 3D printing machine that prints out the car in 24 hours, 18 hours. So you get a car that you want. What happened to a distribution chain? What happened to all those dealers? What happens to all the network that's been created with centralized manufacture? You get bespoke, localized manufacture in any place you want because the 3D printing machines are standard machines. Designs are available all on the web. Anybody can make the design for you. Thousands of people make the design for you. So manufacturing and the entire process of manufacturing, which is the post-industrial revolution era, is going to get deconstructed. So manufacturing is again getting deconstructed. The next big industry getting disrupted is the life science industry. Now, 30% of all drugs don't agree with 30% of human beings cannot take particular drugs or many drugs because the DNA is built differently. Now, using a DNA analysis, you can give bespoke drugs. Now, with genomics costs coming down to maybe $1,000 or maybe $500, you can take a DNA of a particular human being, deconstruct it, find out what drugs are required for what disease, and have bespoke medicine pushed to you. So the way you do medicine may change. Then you've got stem cell research. Stem cell research are unformed cells which are available in the bone marrow or in the placenta. Now they're finding other places where there are unformed cells. Using stem cells, you can put it into your body parts and regrow your body parts. But those of you who fall in love and damage your heart is broken, you can put stem cells and get your heart back. Of course, the heart doesn't break, but whatever it is, you can still do that. So stem cell research is a great thing for human beings. And research has proven now that diabetic foot can be treated by stem cell research, your damaged knee can be done, parts of the heart can be done, and part of your backbone and your spinal cord can also be done in research. The next great invention in medicine is going to be cancer. What is cancer? Cancer is the growth of unregulated cells. Unregulated growth of cells will become malignant. Some cells just deform and they start growing and they become malignant. Now what they're trying to do using big data and research is to find out how to trigger the good cells to fight the bad cells. You deconstruct the good cells using DNA and see what can trigger them to go fight, multiply and fight the bad cells, because you know diseases are fought by your own body cells. When you have a disease, the white blood corpuscles and others grow and they fight, and then over a period of time they overcome the disease. That's how you create a stable animal body. So they're trying to trigger that. And the next thing is robotic surgery. How does surgery work? You go to a doctor, say, I got pain here, he feels you all over the place, takes an x-ray and says, we've got some tumor here, and he cuts you open, rips it up, and leaves something behind, and maybe marks it, and puts it together, and you come out, right? It's 1 month, 2 months, all of you are in trouble, right? Now with robotic surgery, you can do 3D imaging of your body, then find out what is wrong, and the robot will come and do a precise hole, send in something, and correct it, and put it back, and sew it, you go home. Da Vinci manufactures robots for that. Manipal Hospital has robotic surgery for heart surgery. And it can be done. So surgeon becomes a person who's sitting on a PC, looking at all this and giving you all that. Is it happening? It's happening. Is it going to scale up? It will scale up. Then, the biggest thing of them all, two biggest thing of them all, is longevity. What is the most important asset you have? Your life. We all die. It's so sad. When you're young, you don't know, but when you grow older, you die. It's so sad, right? You die. Everybody is born, you'll die. How do you prolong life? A child in America now will live up to 100 years. What big data is doing along with biotechnology is to find out what is the process of aging. How does aging happen? Aging happens around the time of 30, when your body cells stop reproducing at the same pace as they did earlier, and the total number of body cells start going down. It has an impact on you. Let me give you the example of cricket. When Dravid went to Australia some 3-4 years ago in his last tour, he got bowled 4 times between bat and ball. So when you face a fast bowler, you see the ball, your eye recognizes the ball, and it impacts you instantaneously react. Your speed of your hand, the speed of your leg is what makes you play the ball. When Sehwag faces Shoaib Akhtar at 100 miles an hour and he bowls a bouncer, it does this, goes for a 6. It's instantaneous. There's no planning. There is no strategy. Even for Sachin Tendulkar, there is no thinking. It is instinct. Why? Because the eye, the hand, everything concentrates and you can react. Right? After 30, things slow down. The cells don't react. There's a triple of a second and he got bored. Sachin Tendulkar, last test at 35, cut to point, caught a slip. Remember that famous ball? And Kapil Dev at 34, 35, coming and bowling fast, getting hit for a 6, just sliding the ball. So everybody, body slows down, you age. Now how can you go to the cells and find out what triggers that aging process, what triggers the body cells not to start reproducing? Can you postpone that? You can do it by big data, finding out the trigger and seeing what it is. Money is going in. And then brain research. You have got 1 billion neurons. Billion neurons. Those neurons have got many synapses. So there are trillion connections in your mind. Your whole mind works through weak electrical impulses, right? And all kind of, your brain reacts to chemicals, right? Chemical reaction. Love, hate, everything is a chemical reaction which is stimulated by what you see and the body reacts. All right? That's how it is. And I see you today, I recognize you because my brain takes the image that is there through my eyes, processes it, and then puts it against a store to say this face is familiar. But if that part of the brain, which is damaged, which recognizes image, it means I'll see you, but I'll not recognize you, my brother and my wife or my child. So everything is in the brain. Now Ramachandran, Ramachandran says that Jung and the other psychologists are wrong. It's not about your behavior, it's all about brain activity. You just put some part of the brain out and everything can change. So he's trying to prove who's the psychoanalyst, Jung and somebody else. So that does happen. So brain, okay? Now they're doing brain research to find out How to put in weak electrical impulses to control the mind. For a rat, they've been able to push in electrical impulses to make the muscles twitch. So people are putting money, Obama put money, Chris is putting money here, they're putting money to brain this and say, can you manipulate the weak electrical impulses for memory and for everything else? And that will be the ultimate. What are the benefits? Well, I won't tell you about that because you may get scared. So life sciences is getting disrupted. The next big disruption happening in the big industry is education. There are 125 million young people studying in colleges all around the world, 35 million in India. We saw the data yesterday. Now, how do people study? Education 1.0 was the Gurukul and the Academy, Gurukul of India and the Academy of Greece. So there was a tutor, and students went to him, stayed with him, and he taught them from maybe age 6, age 10 to age 15 by a dialogue. So he had to be a learned man, and he taught people. It is not scalable, it was very small. Then came the Industrial Revolution, and you had a new form of education, which is what we have today. It is where one person reads all the books, gets a degree, a lot of people come, he comes and gives a lecture, there's a course, there's a content, there's a credit, there's an examination, there's an assessment, the piece of paper is giving at the end of it, and he comes and tells you everything. You write down, you pass the exam, and you get a piece of paper, and you got a degree, you got a job. So one to many. Why? Because the information has been read by a few people, right? One to many. And that information is not available to everybody. Now, we are in the midst of education 4.0, in which all the accumulated knowledge of humankind is available on the web for free, in any language of your choice, with rich video, rich multimedia. It's all available. Tutors are available to tutor you personally on a call. There are other people available to give you material. So content is free. So how does education take place? Education has two components. The regulatory aspect, course, content, pedagogy, classes, universities, regulator, blah, 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 to give you a degree. That's not going to change, because there are so many people in the system holding on because they can't change. But the process of learning, how do children learn? Children learn on their own, children learn by interaction, and that learning can be asynchronous. You can go from 101 to 501 because you have an interest. And you can do all that because that information is available. And that is leading to very interesting consequences. The big MOOCs have come up, online courses have come up, and variety of courses are enormous because the university is restricted by the courses that the faculty can deliver. But on an open platform, you can have any number of courses. So we're going to see disruption there in a big way because the learning is getting disrupted, and you could have a time when you can design your own degree. I want a degree in nuclear science, with biotechnology, with dance, with music, and let us say with biology and with something else. So I take those courses from the best universities in the world, which are giving me by MOOCs. I do the credits, get a certain amount of credits. I go to the web and find a virtual university which has accredited all these courses. I send them my credits and they give me a degree. And my employer will hire me. Why do employers hire me? Because they want people left brain, right brain. They don't want widgets who do the same thing again and again. They want very creative people. So education is getting disrupted. How is it going to have an impact? We'll see, because the way we have classes, the way we have universities, the way we interact is going to go. And it's happening in a very rapid way. In the US, students have $1.5 trillion of debt. $1.5 trillion. It's such a rotten society which makes these young people take debt at the formative years of life before they go and work, and they're going to spend their entire life paying off the debt. I think Bill Gates and everybody should give scholarships and reduce the debt burden, not keep on piling debt on young people. They're destroying their future. Whereas China is giving free education to everybody, and they're going to make a great future. Now, when people ask the question, why should I pay $250,000 for a course? Why can't I shrink the time required for a degree, go for education? Now, education has got 5 components. Socialization. You have to go somewhere, meet people, peer group, that's required. Learning. Learning can get disrupted. Instead of 4 years, you can do 2 years of classroom balance on your own. Third, assessment. Assessment is disrupted. You can do it on your own. Fourth is your brand and your degree. And the degree, the brand value is an ROI. How much you pay to get the brand value. Now, people know the brand value necessarily doesn't carry for the quality that it once was. And the last thing is, how do employers find you? The employers are finding different way. Today, if you want to hire somebody for software, you put them to a coding test. You have a coding test, people come and code, the best coder gets the job. Doesn't matter whether a high school graduate or an engineer, is slowly picking up. So education is getting disrupted. The next industry which is getting disrupted, financial services. How does financial services work? Financial services work, traditionally people said, you took money at 3%, lent at 6%, you had a 3% spread, you played golf at 3%. at 3 o'clock, right? That's what Americans spoke about 20 years ago. Today, on the liability side of the balance sheet, where banks take deposits, all people have investment options. You can put into a bank deposit anywhere in the world, you can put into stocks, you can put into ETFs, so the options are coming very well. On the asset side, where you give loans, people can give loans. Now there's robo-finance. You want a housing loan? You go and give your details to a robo-finance chatbot, and the chatbot will go crawl the web, talk to all companies, get to the best product, and come and tell you, this company has got a product suited for you. You don't have to talk to anybody. So robo-finance is disrupting. And that means, and the payment system is getting disrupted. In the payment system, the banks control the payment. Blockchain is disrupting the payment system. And blockchain implies a ledger is owned by you, not by a central repository. And that is disrupting in a very, very big way. We're beginning to see the impact in the financial system. It also means that banks are shrinking. In the West, the bank branches are shrinking, number of banks are coming down, more online transactions. 75% of transactions in India is online. And the last 12 years, banks' balance sheet have grown by 10 times or maybe 12 times, both assets, liabilities, and operating profits. But employment has grown only 5%. Only 5%. Balance sheets have grown 10 times, 12 times, 15 times, but employment is 5%. So the financial service sector is getting disrupted. And to take care of lack of employment and the global financial crisis, the central banks have printed $14 trillion of currency. Japan has got 4, America has got 4.5, the EU has got some 3, 4, China has gotten 2 and 3. The world is surplus in liquidity. Till about 3 months back, the 10-year bond in Germany was quoting at negative interest rates. That means you pay 100 rupees, you get back 95 rupees. It's a negative interest rate. Why? Well, they were issuing that. Now it's come to a 10-year bond pays you 0.3% interest a year. 0.3% interest a year. The interest rates are down because of massive liquidity, and that means that people are taking the money, putting into venture, putting into innovation. Innovation cycles are shrunk from 36 to 18 months, and innovation is coming on in a very, very rapid way. So, if you look at the totality of all this disruption that's happening because of technology, IT is playing the horizontal role. With cloud technologies, you have unlimited capacity. And with advancement in the mobile, you can do a lot of transactions in the mobile at a fraction of the cost. They're all linked together. You've got 7 billion people, 6 billion people are connected by the mobile, 3.5 billion people are connected by the smartphone. And 3.5 is going to go to 6 in maybe 4 to 5 years. Everybody is going to have a smartphone, and that means huge computing power available everywhere. Quantum computing is coming, whereby the number crunching process becomes much, much more faster, and all the big gigantic problems of the birth of the universe and the monsoon conditions and weather, climate can all be deducted using big data and using this analytics. So IT costs are coming down, and IT costs, lowering of the IT costs is driving this kind of innovation. Because imagine you're a startup, earlier 10 years back you set up a data center. You buy servers, you do everything else, and it costs you money. Today, there's no data center. You go call to a cloud operator, take capacity, and you start on your own. All your data is there. You upload. It's so cheap. The cost of innovation is coming down. It's becoming people costs. Infrastructure costs are coming down, and people are giving space for it to free. So IT is driving all this innovation coming, because everything is becoming software, everything is becoming hardware. In manufacturing, we are in the midst of Industry 4.0. Industry 1.0 was a traditional industrial era manufacture. Huge factories, machines, people came and worked. Then you had 2.0, where the assembly line came because of Henry Ford. You had the assembly line where people stood still, the line moved, productivity went up. Industry 3.0 was a PLC, programmable logic controller, where we have CNC machines and the machines could be programmed. Industry 4.0 is robotics. And when the robots come, that's going to change the world. And these robots are working very hard. For example, you go to an auto factory, the entire production line is run by robots. There are no human beings. And you go to Industry 4.0, you're going to have sensors, you're going to have IoT, data is going to be picked up, put in a central server, the server is going to scheduling and based upon sales. Let's say you buy a car without the 3D printing. What happens? The dealer delivers the car, the data is captured, put in the back end, thousands of cars are delivered, and it goes to the server makes a program, sends it to all the part manufacturers, they send it to the factory, it comes there, and the robots get everything together. You can have batch size of 100 cars instead of 1,000 cars. It becomes efficient. So no people, right? Now if you have an electric vehicle there, you go and you punch in your requirements, talk to somebody, and he gives you a design, and it's printed next door. Even that will disappear. So we are in the midst of IT driving robotics, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. Now when robots come, That's going to change the context. A Nobel Prize laureate told me, Desh, that robots cost $5 an hour. In Seattle, they want $15 for minimum wages. New York, $15. They're going to get replaced. Foxconn replaced 50,000 girls who were assembling iPhones in China because they asked for a raise. They wanted more salary. And Foxconn got the robots to do it. And robots in electronic assembly, you require dexterity in the fingers. It requires tremendous amount of maneuverability. And the robots have been able to get that in a tremendous way. Even that is gone. And Foxconn is going to replace 500,000 young women in their factories for assembling Apple phones with robots. And robots have become the largest selling domestic utensil in Japan, because Japan people are aging, and when you age, you have a household robot which does your homework, housework, cleans up your place, does tea, coffee for you, it's very warm, it will sing for you, you can hug it also, and it will coo to you and not talk back. So, and then in China, a friend of mine went to a factory, 1 kilometer in depth by half a kilometer, just dark. He said, is it working? I said, it's working. He said, where? Where are the people? No people. Everything is automatic. It's all robotic. Something goes wrong, red light comes, go to a PC, you fix it, or go there and do something. The goods are manufactured, packed, put into a truck. The truck still requires a human being, but in Germany, a convoy of truck went 1,500 kilometers by themselves, driven by themselves. And that's happening. So robots are coming in a very big way. Robots could fight war. Now, the Americans are controlling in Nevada, 8,000 miles away. They send drones to Waziristan. They take all the satellite images, find out where those people are, see all the chatter on the cell phones network, and then go against the terrorists. So tomorrow you're going to have Star Wars robots fighting wars. In Boston Dynamics, I think there's a video which says a robot standing here did a backflip and landed on the feet. A robot standing here did a backflip and landed on the feet. I think in MIT they have a cheetah, a robot cheetah. It can go at 60 miles an hour. Have you seen a cheetah run on TV? A cheetah is the fastest land animal. 16 kilometers an hour it goes, and this can go 60 kilometers. It's coming very close to it. And now artificial intelligence has beaten, and big machines have beaten the best minds in chess, best minds in Go. They're doing all kind of activity, and machines can be trained through multi-layered data being kept there through the chips. The GPU chip has revolutionized. So we're seeing all these advances, robotics, artificial intelligence, machine learning come together to change the way we work and live. So what if all of this comes together? By 2030, it's all going to come together. They're going to be 30, 60, 70% electric cars. Oil consumption will come down by 30%. India will benefit, right? Manufacturing 30% by 3D printing. All the supply chain costs are gone. Financial services will be totally deconstructed. It will all be available to so many people everywhere. And then your medicine and life sciences will change. The way you're operated upon, the way your health is done will be bespoke, suited to your body. People are going to live longer. You can conquer disease by reconstructing that in big data. And if you look at even, let's say, education, even education is going to change. So what is going to be the impact on human society? The impact on human society is going to be tremendous. And that's a big disruption. And it's happening right now. The job intensity of growth is going to come down. So the US grows at 2.5%, jobs can grow at 0.5 or 1%. But that even the 0.5 will come down because most jobs will be automated. In the last 15 years, 10 million jobs, good jobs in America have got automated. It's not that job loss are happening because of outsourcing, it's because of automation. And automation taking away good jobs the middle class Americans wanted. For the last 15 years, middle class America's income has not gone up. And that's why Trump came, because people are in pain. The same thing is there in Europe with an aging population. So automation, artificial intelligence taking away very good jobs, and society is changing. In Switzerland last year, they had a referendum for basic income. What does it mean? The proposal was every individual gets 2,250 euros in the bank every month, and a youngster gets 975. You don't have to work. And it was shot down because they said the Syrians are going to come and take it, but 23% of people voted for it. Bill Gates and Elon Musk are saying the solution for greater unemployment in the age of automation and disruption is to give basic income to many, many people. India is 10 years behind the curve. If we grow at 8%, jobs could grow at 6%. Tomorrow, if we grow at 8%, jobs will grow at 4%, maybe 3%. But we have a lot of infrastructure to catch up, a lot of investment to make. So we are 10 years behind the curve, but it's going to happen. But all this disruption is changing the way we behave, changing the way we act, is having an impact on societies, having an impact on politics, and that is where we are today. So we are living in the age of disruption. Now before I end, 2 or 3 more points. How do we react to this age of disruption? One, we need new social structures in our society to take care of people who may be left behind, because many people are getting educated. India produces 88 lakh graduates every year, is going to soon start producing 15 lakh, 1.5 crores graduates every year by 2030, because more and more people are going to college. Where are the jobs for them? They want office jobs, they're not going to get it. So we got to create social structures to make sure there is no social discontent. Second, we got to stop this consolidation of innovation in certain things. Google owns India. Facebook owns India. Twitter owns India. With all the data is there with them. When people who control big data, people who control computing power, people who write algorithms, they're going to control the way human beings behave and human beings act. Their monopolies are coming up in new way. We have to take care of that. Next, we have to be part of the innovation system. China is spending $150 billion on artificial intelligence, and China has said that US and China are going to dominate the world in artificial intelligence. Only US and China. And they mean only China. And what is happening in China is unbelievable. Where is India? India is not even thinking about it. Our government is not even thinking about it, what to do in this era. Entrepreneurs are just struggling to come out of the AI companies. They're coming up in a small way, but there's no funding, there is no innovation happening there. Our universities are deadbeats, they're not innovating, because structures are not there. So we're going to be left behind, and we're going to find. Except that in companies like Tesla, Google, Facebook, IBM, Watson, or NVIDIA, 30% of the staff is Indian. So the Indians are still around, like Desh. Hopefully some of them will come back, and maybe don't come back. We'll go there and ruin that country too, which we have to do. And but we'll take over the country. But we have to be there. Next, what about jobs? Basic income. What about jobs? We'll still be around 10 years later. Lack of these jobs, Gujars, Jats, Marathas, and Tamils, everybody is fighting for jobs. And that's going to be a problem for the next 20 years. By 2025, India will have 20 crore people in the age group of 18 to 45 with no jobs or bad jobs. We already have 10 crore people because they're not producing enough jobs. We gave a jobs report to the Prime Minister which says India produces only 7 to 8 million jobs a year. It can go to 10 million. But about 15 to 17 million come into the workforce every year. So we have a problem. And the problem is not going to go away. So how will human beings react? Luckily, fertility is coming around all around the world. Japan is shrinking, Germany and Europe, the whole of Europe is shrinking. America's population will come down except for the Hispanics and immigration. With Trump, immigration won't be there, it will come down. So there is a natural progression of the lack of growth in the human race, and population is now beginning to just stabilize, and people are going to age. So we'll have a 50 years of change. But disruption is coming faster than that, so we got to place with that repercussion. And to take leadership in the age of disruption, we have to invest in innovation. We have to start becoming creative, use the left brain and the right brain together. We can't be just people who are going to get into process. It's not going to last long. We need to have deep specialized knowledge. We need to invest in technology. And we got to reduce the stress on business and make things happen faster and grow much faster, hopefully growing much faster before it starts hitting us. So I want to end here and say all of you are going to have a wonderful time in the next 12 years. There are going to be many winners, there are going to be many losers, but it is going to be a fascinating time for human beings on the planet, and possibly this is a time when India will grow the fastest too, though the job situation is going to be uncertain. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, undoubtedly, sir, yesterday I told you one thing. Let them express their love, then I'll express mine. So yesterday I told you one thing that I would like to retell you that. Speak a good word or remain silent. You spoke so many good words, and I was wondering, where are you looking at and, presenting for such a long time? I think about 45 minutes, no presentation, nothing, so much of knowledge. That's splendid. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a huge round of applause. Sir, request you to kindly take your seat. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be open to audience to ask for about 2 questions. But before that, importantly, there was one more presentation which Sir presented yesterday, Bharat in 2030. Based on that, and also based on a couple of very interesting questions in the current scenario, I'd like to question you, sir, and then we'll have 2 questions or 3 questions from the audience as well. For many startups in the changing world, with a lot of disruption happening, how should they start working and what should their focus be?
I think the focus should be, as startups are, on problem solving. You should understand a problem which is deep rooted and create a scalable platform for the problem to be solved. It cannot be a point solution because point solutions are limited. It has got to be a problem which is faced across society, and you must create a platform by which lots of people can access and try to grow very fast just to survive. Because innovation cycles are coming down and there's a consolidation of platforms that is happening. So it's essentially a problem-solving exercise.
Absolutely. Also, sir, in the presentation what you had yesterday, there are a lot of startups which are coming up in the country, and but then the venture capitalists, the investors are from out of the country. What is your say for most of the people who are the investors in our country?
I think our Indian capitalistic class have to invest in innovation and in startups in a very big way. Today, out of the 13.75 billion that came last year, only about 10% was Indian capital. So we are in danger of becoming a digital colony. Of the 12 unicorns, about 10 are registered outside India. In all of them, overseas capital owns 70 to 80%. Our Indian entrepreneurs, all of them, barring 1 or 2, are reduced to becoming employees. They don't have a stake because they raise so much of capital. And after 1991, post-liberalization, the first industry that came up was IT. We got some great IT companies. I explained yesterday. They're still owned by Indian capital and Indians run it. Second was telecom. It's still Indian run and still working very well. We got global competition. The third was infrastructure. Very Indian. All are Indian. They ruined the banks. They created NPAs. They robbed the banks. But they're still Indian. Better to have an Indian rob a bank than an overseas person rob a bank, I guess. The fourth is the digital revolution and startups. In that we have lost the battle. Because people are not investing enough. We've gone to government and government has created 10,000 crore fund of funds. The 10,000 crore fund of funds will invest into other funds. We already given away 2,600 crores to 53 funds which will catalyze 18,000 crores of investment. So 10,000 crores to create 60,000 crores of investment because they're giving 15-20% of every fund. We're going to get 120 fund managers, but it's inadequate. 65% of funding in startups in China come from Chinese capital. So we need to fund more. We need more angel networks. We need more capital to come in. Our insurance companies to fund more. So we need Indian capital to come in for 35 to 40% because if we don't do that, we are going to lose our future.
All right, thank you, sir. I think I would have one last question and then we'll have 2 questions from the audience. This is out of the presentation what you had yesterday and what we had today. The last question I have is, what's the reality of cryptocurrency and is it here to stay and what is your say on it? I think most of them have this question.
A set of people came together and said that currencies are essentially don't have scarcity value. Now what is money? Economics teacher, money is a store of value, a medium of exchange and a unit of accounting. Money is a commodity which is backed by a sovereign with a store of value which is a medium of exchange and a unit of accounting. But money can be debased because people can print currency and give unlimited access like it happened as part of the global financial crisis when major economies started having loose money and printing more money and creating liquidity, right? So they printed money and created credits and bought securities and released the money in the market so the interest rates came down in the hope that it stimulates investment, which didn't happen in a very big way. So people came together and created a virtual currency and said that we're going to have a mechanism to mine the currency and we're going to limit it to 20 million units. That's the Bitcoin. And then it can't go beyond 20. I think 17 have been done. And this can be used to exchange and to buy goods and services. So people started trading and it started going up. But because of scarcity, the value of the currency started going up. And the value started going up. A lot of people came in and started buying and it became an investment class asset. Though the intrinsic value of that is not known. A stock has got a company and cash flows. Gold has got a scarcity value. Commodities have got a consumption value, right? So anything that you trade has got a value. A REIT has got a real estate value which can be sold. But in a cryptocurrency, it is money, and money cannot appreciate. Money can change, exchange based upon other currencies, but itself cannot appreciate. The Bitcoin from $1 has gone to $10,000, appreciated, and no, because of scarcity value, because people are piling on, is a new asset. Is it going to be the virtual currency for the future? No. Right now, no, because the sovereigns, the governments are not going to allow the power to be eroded by anybody. They'll ban it. India has gone after all the people who traded. Korea said they're going to ban, and everybody is getting worried because it's creating a bubble. So we don't know what is going to happen, but this is happening by itself. Well, let's wait and see.
All right, wonderful, sir. With that, end with my questions. Audience, sorry, because of time, we'll have only one question since the mic is already there with you, sir.
Thank you very much for a fantastic extempo, sir. I have two observations and one question. You mentioned that in US and China are going to be owning and leading the AI space. And you're the only and the first person that I've heard in probably the last 3 years who says that we need to focus on creating platform solutions that can be adopted across so that adoption can grow and exponentially. So now, what do you think should be the focus of AI in Indian market? How can we work with you directly? Because that is exactly what we do.
Now, my view is, now AI has many components, and where we can excel is in applied AI, in the sense, how do we use AI to solve problems? Now, AI can work in structured industries by automating processes and making them more efficient. AI can work in unstructured industries by finding new solutions, because there are many complex problems where there are no solutions. And AI can work in, let us say, in defining many things that have an impact on us, like the monsoon and others, where things can work. So I think we have to start companies which solve business problems now and grow them so industry becomes more efficient. At the same time, find out what is happening in AI in its application and work on that. But the most important thing is to create capacity in our universities for people who understand AI, who can create the building blocks. So I think we need to have public funding for that, and I think that's going to happen. But we need more funding.
Thank you very much. How can we work with you directly, sir?
Well, send me an email. Now, in Bangalore, in the last 1 year, 500 companies have come up using AI. Bangalore. They're very small, but some of them will do well.
Well, sir, thank you so much for your gracious presence at the occasion of TiECON 2018. Ladies and gentlemen, once more, let's give a roaring round of applause to sir. It's an honor to have you here. Now, ladies and gentlemen, TiECON Hubli is making sure we've got the best of the personalities of the country being present here, who are acknowledged around the world. The next personality joining us on stage is one whom we in the Kannada industry call as a kingmaker. But before that, sir, can I request you to kindly join us back on stage, Mohandas sir? And Santosh sir, request you to acknowledge the presence of Mohandas sir on this gracious occasion. Let's give a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Santosh Hurli Kopi, who's acknowledging the presence of Shri T.V. Mohandas Pai.